But Arsenal looking to go and get Cancelo, another City player you're linked to, Brandon. £70 million is the quote unquote reported price. What's your thoughts on that, mate?
Another City player, Joe. Another City player, just called as Man City reserves. You know, I'm starting to get a bit worried now that Arsenal are going to release a sky blue kit at some point. Cancelo, that's an interesting one for me. Arguably one of the best attacking fullbacks in world football. However, it's a lot of money. He's clearly upset the apple cart at Manchester City with his antics in the dressing room for whatever reason it may be. So that's another worry as well. And then on top of that, where does that leave us defensively? That's my big issue, because we've already got Zinchenko there, who's more of a midfielder, not very good defensively. And if you've got Cancelo playing on the other side, another player who's not defensively sound, where does that leave us? Could it be that Cancelo is maybe coming in as kind of like I wouldn't say a backup, but maybe a starter for Arsenal, and then you have Zinchenko as the backup on the left-hand side, because I know he can play left and right. He certainly wouldn't be coming into Arsenal to hold the bench, but I don't know, Teo. I don't know how to feel about this one, because he's a top-tier player, and it's 70 million quid, and it's the kind of money that we really need to be spending on players this summer if we're to elevate ourselves. But I kind of have the same fear as what you do with Manchester United. You know, if we go and blow that sort of money on one player, what's going to happen with the rest of the positions within our squad that need filling? And the problem that I have with Arsenal in particular is we need 4 or 5 top signings. We can't afford to go and buy 1 or 2 top signings and then fill in with average players if we're to push on to the next level next season. Because I look at it now, right? We challenged for a league this season, but I don't think it tells the whole story. And as things stand right now, I don't see how Arsenal can compete with Manchester City next season. I genuinely don't. And the reason I say that is because if you look at the way that this season has ended, Manchester City won the league on 89 points. That's the second lowest points tally that they've won the league on in the 5 out of 6 years that they've won the league. So, and then again, you go to Arsenal's start of the season. Our first 19 games, we took 50 points out of 57. Now, you can't really do much better than that. What let us down was the second half of the season, where we only took 34 points. So you have to kind of replicate the first half of the season that we had into the second half of the season if you could to compete with this Man City side. Because I look at their points tally this season, right? I don't think this is the best Man City by any stretch of the imagination at all. In the league in particular. If you look at the way they started the season, it didn't really click massively for them. We was all talking about, you know, with Haaland, he's a great player, he scores goals, but does he really fit the Manchester City system? You know, it wasn't really clicking the way that it has done for the last few months for them. And I just feel like if you're going to compete with Man City and you're going to possibly knock them off their perch and win the league, you're going to have to come up with anywhere between 92 and 98 points in the season. And if you look at Arsenal at the moment, there's so many positions that still need to be, you know, sorted out within the squad. I look at Gabriel Jesus as an example. He's a player who I like a lot, but he don't score enough goals. You know, you can guarantee you 10 to 15 goals in the league a season, but I don't think that's enough. I think you need a striker there that can guarantee you 20, 25. Then you need, obviously, midfielders as well. And I just think Cancelo, good player and all that, but like again, defensively,
Yeah, I want to bring it back a bit because obviously you went off on about 3 different subjects there, and obviously what that does to the audience is like, right, what we took. We'll come back to what you do in the overall season. In terms of Cancelo, I want to just go back to him for the panel. Bayern Munich want him. Yes, Man City have had some issues with him in terms of behavior, but I think the only reason Bayern Munich are not going to buy him is because they don't have the money to buy him. Is this rivals looking at this? Is this a no-brainer? Is this the level of player? I mean, this was a guy that was called the best fullback in the world, what, 6, 7, 8 months ago. Now suddenly Arsenal fans don't want him. Like, what rivals? Should they buy him? Is he not good enough? Good enough? What we saying?
He's not 70 million. Yeah. He's not 70 million. That's the thing. I would take Cancelo if I was an Arsenal fan. Just not paying 70 million for him. There's a reason he went on loan to Bayern, because City don't want him. And if Bayern want him, I promise you they're not spending 70 million for him. He's not that much. He's 29. There's a guy, I don't know how many teams he's played for so far, but I swear he played for Inter, Juve, City, Bayern, and there was one more team. There's a reason why Valencia. There you go. That's a lot of teams in such a short time, and it just shows you something about this player. You can either look at it, well, he's so good that everyone wants him, or there's a reason why he always leaves a club within 2-3 years. And I just don't think he's 70 million at his age. The more concerning part to me, if I was an Arsenal fan, is why does Arteta keep going for Pep's? I don't want to disrespect him and call him a reject because he is a good player, but he is a reject because he doesn't want him in the club for a reason. There's a reason why he doesn't want him. And why does Arteta always go for the easy solutions? It's like, I've worked with them before. I know them. I'll find a way to convince them to come here because they know me personally. So let's go for him. I never see him going for these same profile players that are playing in bigger, not necessarily bigger teams because City is a big team, but just different teams. He's always going for the easy option, which is like, oh, I can convince them because I worked with them before. That's the thing that would worry me the most. It's like he's cheating off Pep's homework. That's what I always feel with these signings.
Well, I'm the first. I want to be the first one. Yeah, go on.
What other right backs are there in world football that go?
He's not a right back.
He can play both. He can play both.
When has Pep played him on the right?
All the time.
He played all the time. He's played him on the right.
He always played on the left, bro.
No, he hasn't. Go and check.
Here's my thing with that argument.
He has the ability to play both.
He has the ability to play both, but he always plays him on the left because his best ability is cutting into that midfield and playing that inverted.
Yes, when he
style.
When he first came in, when Walker was out, he was playing on the right.
When Walker was injured, when he was injured versus Madrid, he didn't even trust him to put him on the right side.
That's fair. That's of a reason. I'm saying that.
We'll stop the debate with our facts. In his career, he's played 89 games as left back and 201 games as a right back.
He's a right
and
back.
How many of these 89 are in the last 2 years, Terry? Probably all of them. So in his recent 2 seasons, he's been a left back.
But let's take a look. Just so it takes a while for this screen to load. So this season, 27 at left back. Let's go back to last year and have a little look. Carry on talking. I'll get the numbers for you in a minute.
But you get my point. My point is the last 2 seasons he's been dominating.
Yeah, but he's played.
Then I'm gonna let you go because you've been wanting to say something. Yeah. But my point is, it's like I just don't like the idea that he's always going for the Pep rejects as a quick fix to what he's trying to do. And not only that, he has to pay 70 million for someone who's not even wanted in his club. Like, I just don't think that's the right price.
There is a super chat. There is a super chat here. He is not wanted in the club. He fell out with the manager. He was one of their best players over the past 3-4 seasons. Let's get it straight. The successful City team, he was one of the most successful players. People were comparing him with Trent, even though he doesn't have even half of Trent's numbers. Like stats-wise, he doesn't. But he was compared to Trent as one of the best fullbacks in the league. So let's get it straight, to be honest. Like, he was one of the greatest fullbacks in the last 3-4 years. So,
well, that's a red flag for me straight away then, if it's falling out with the manager. If you're falling out with the best manager in world football right now, he ain't gonna have
that was more due to, and I know there's hearsay about him falling out, but that was essentially he wasn't playing. He wasn't playing games. Because he came out of favour, and I think someone like a Cancelo, someone that's got an ego. Look, if you go and drop Mo Salah for 3, 4, 5 games on a bounce, I guarantee there's going to be a falling out. Klopp's come out himself and said that.
And the thing with Pep is,
1 game it is an issue. So,
and the thing with Pep is, Pep doesn't always drop people because they're bad. He he goes through those. But there's times where Gundogan plays lows and he
Yeah.
doesn't. Look how he changes his centre backs over the last 2 or 3 years. I don't know. I look at this as look. The fact that Bayern Munich want him tells me how good he is as a footballer. Financially, they just can't. They just can't compete. It's going to be an interesting one.
What I want to know is just quickly. I just want to know, when are Arsenal going to get flack for signing Man City players? Because my team got flack for just signing who whatever else wants. I want to know when Arsenal are going to start getting flack.
I just did, Dave. There you go.
One second. I think that's a bit unfair, because honestly, I'm the first person that wants to slay Arteta. But I think if you look at every manager, at one point they're gonna go for their old the players that they've known they play with.
This guy's done it with 4 man them.
Ten Hag himself has gone for 4 players from Ajax in the last transfer window.
We made like 5 signings in the summer, and then everyone was like, "Oh, you just copy people." That man is doing the same thing. Nah. I'm not having
What I would say, he knows and he works with them, and he knows the players, and he knows them well, and he knows that they can fit into the system.
He never gets their best players. That's my point. You're not going to City and getting their best. Exactly, but that's my point. If you're going, if Arsenal is big enough to go and say, we want your best players, I'm not saying this is going to happen, but imagine you say, we want De Bruyne off you guys. I'm not going to call De Bruyne a reject. Obviously, I'm not saying that's going to happen. That's just hypothetically speaking, because that is arguably their best player. If you go and you get their best players, I wouldn't have an issue with it. But it seems to me that every time Pep doesn't want a player for whatever reason, he's going to Arteta's team. And this is the part that would piss me off if I'm an Arsenal fan, because why are we always going for what he doesn't think is good enough for his team anymore? But we're not going for the best players.
I understand that, but are you over-indexing it? Because Bayern Munich, who are a bigger club than City, want this guy. Barcelona, that are a bigger club than City, want Ilkay Gundogan. It wasn't just Arsenal that went in for Gabriel Jesus last year. A number of teams went in for him. Zinchenko, I'm not too sure about. Arsenal shouldn't be ridiculed because they're amongst a number of giant clubs that are going for some of these City players that are exiting. Bernardo Silva was wanted by PSG and Barcelona. Are they ridiculous for wanting Bernardo Silva? Because
Barcelona also signed Aubameyang, which they told me wasn't good enough for the team anymore and was disrupting the dressing room. So it's the same logic could be used.
But that's exactly the point. Just because a player is done at a particular... When Milner signed for Liverpool, it was looked at as mad. But what Milner's done at Liverpool has been really good, considering when he joined and the age that he was at. I don't think it's fair just to say a manager's got bad talent ID or he's signing rejects when a number of the biggest clubs in Europe all want these players at the same time. Why should Arsenal, because Arteta used to work there as a coach, go, "Oh, we better not go for him because it might get ridiculed by fans online," when other big clubs in Europe are trying to sign him? That for me just doesn't make sense. Like, Man United will never get an ex-City player. If we could sign Gundogan this summer, I'd love that. He's brilliant. Why would I not want him at my club? Same with Cancelo. I think he's really good. I don't understand why people a year ago were talking about this guy being the best fullback in the country. Now the way everyone talks about him is like he's Aaron Wan-Bissaka without the defense.
Can I just say, while I understand what stuff he's saying and I get what he's saying, one thing I would say is the players that we have signed from Manchester City, whether they be Pep's rejects or not, they have moved. And would you agree in what I'm saying here? They have moved the needle for Arsenal, whether it be ever so slightly or, they've got us challenging for a league title. So I understand what you're saying, but at the same time, it kind of justifies going for these players as well. But on your point, Tel, the one thing that worries me about Cancelo is his defensive deficiencies. We've already seen with Zinchenko, we have major defensive deficiencies with Zinchenko in the side. If you look at over our last 9 games, we conceded 16 goals. And if you check the stats as well, I can pretty much guarantee you at least half, if not more of them goals came down Zinchenko's side. So that's what worries me about Cancelo.
I do understand that. We've got some super chats here.